Welcome to another Lombardi Live on drumchannel.com, of course, and now as a podcast also, so you can hear us talking wherever you are, whenever you want. I have a very special guest today. He's known amongst the drumming community as Curty B, and I think you would know if you're a drummer that that's Curt Bisquera. Thank you for joining me, Curt.
It's so great to be back from the alternate universe. We're back here now in Drum Channel world. I love it.
Absolutely. We're going to talk a lot about that alternate universe and where it's taken a lot of drummers in their careers.
Absolutely.
What you're doing, and a lot of the drummers out there who are new members to Drum Channel and new drummers to the drumming community.
Absolutely.
Need to fill them in a little bit about your career and give them some tips, because you're kind of living their dream, if you will, from coming out here, going to MI, which is Musicians Institute, going to school, getting gigs, and learning what the most important thing was in your journey that you think you would want to tell them about what your career is all about. But before you answer that, we're also going to ask him what singer told him to move faster when they shook their legs. So we'll get to that in a little bit later.
Who would that be?
Who would that be? You'll probably not be surprised when you hear the answer. But in your journey, tell us a little bit about your upbringing and what brought you out here and your ability to have such a great time feel, because that's what you're known for.
Well, thank you, Don. I grew up in Santa Maria, California, which is the Central Coast in California. It's about 2.5 hours north of Los Angeles. And
not the music mecca.
No.
You were in the middle of almost nowhere there.
Strawberry fields, broccoli, lettuce. But now it's really considered like one of the premier places for wine. So anyway, reverting back to my beginnings, my mother was a pianist and B3 player, and so she was 8.5 months pregnant with me, playing in her jazz trio, playing organ and piano. So whenever I hear organ or piano, I just immediately, stick the thumb in my mouth and head over towards the organ. But I just love organ jazz. Jimmy Smith, the great Joey DeFrancesco, God bless him. But moving forward, as I got older, I started gigging with my mom in nightclubs. And
not even that old though, right?
I started playing in nightclubs when I was 11. One of the things through my development of being a self-taught drummer was I started subscribing to Modern Drummer magazine. Not a plug, just letting you know. But I started subscribing to Modern Drummer magazine, and I saw this advertisement. It was "Learn from the Best." That was the title, and it was a picture of Joe Porcaro and Ralph Humphrey, God bless him. Those two guys, arm in arm, and it said Musicians Institute, PIT, and I thought, wait a second, I could learn drumming from these guys? And that was it. That was my goal. And I remember finding this out at the end of junior year in high school, and I went up to my boss. I was working for a grocery chain called Lucky's at the time. And I went to my boss and I said, I need full-time work. I don't care what hours. I just need to start earning some money so I could go to MI. So luckily he wasn't able to give me full-time because I was still underage.
11 years old in a bar, you couldn't even order a Shirley Temple yet.
No, well, rumor has it that I actually had that bar closed because they're hiring an 11-year-old playing drums. I don't know how true that is, but if you're watching, sorry if that's true. But
so you couldn't, Lucky's, they wouldn't let you go full time?
Well, because I was under 21. I think at the time you had to be 21 and over to work full time. So they gave me the maximum hours. So I worked my butt off, and saved every penny. I didn't spend a dime of it. Of course, I still came up short, but my mom helped me out, of course. But fast forward to 1984 and moving to Los Angeles from the small town Santa Maria and getting an apartment right in the ground zero of Hollywood and attending PIT, MI. And one of the first people I ran into was Joe Porcaro. And the rest is history. I basically took lessons from him and Ralph and all the other great staff members, Ed Rossetti, Maria Martinez, the great Casey Sherrill. I mean, the list goes on and on and on.
And here we are in the age of technology where my main mission with Drum Channel is learn from the best, Joe Porcaro and Ralph Humphrey, whose
Right.
lessons are on here. So
Right.
you got the ability to kind of relive your life. I've never thought about that
Exactly.
before with today's technology.
Well, that's funny. I kind of reviewed some of that stuff on Drum Channel, and it was a lot of what I'd learned from them. So it was nice to give myself a refresher of how they taught their courses.
Now, the importance about your preparation for going to MI, because I know some other great drummers who were down there with you, and some friends of mine who went there with you too, who have other careers.
Yeah.
Rich Secret, for instance. Who were some of the other people that were there at the same time you were?
Eric Singer, Carla Azar, Enzo Tedesco. I think Chad Smith was after
Going
me.
through there quickly at that point, right?
Yeah,
he spent
he
about
was
a
in and out.
semester there.
Yeah, he was in and out. You know, the guy who was
He got this gig with some band, I think.
Red Hot Hamburgers or something.
Yeah,
like
that's
that? I
very,
don't know.
very close. Yeah,
Anyway, yeah, the
that
guy,
took him away from his career there.
No, I mean, he was the talk of the school. It was like, yeah, this guy named Chad just came in here and came out of here. And so what was great about Chad paving that way was that not only it made the school popular, but it proved that you could go to a place like that and learn something, and not only learn something, but be amongst your peers. And when you're amongst your peers in a situation like that, you push each other, and you get better, and you get better, and you get better. I mean, a lot of what I learned wasn't just from the instructors, but a lot from my former and fellow students.
Yeah, well, a lot of the other students who were there, I know, because again, I know them personally. You were the person who were dragging them along to push them to get as good, because as one of them told me, you know, I've been there for 2 years. I'm working my way into playing with the A band and the A group. This guy comes in who doesn't know how to read, hasn't practiced the rudiments, and he's getting in all the A bands because you played so well. That's kind of the difference between, as we talk on Drum Channel, you want to learn how to play the drums, which goes back to, you know, the days of Freddie Gruber when it was just
Right.
talking about technique and great technicians, what to play, why to play it, and then the performance. I take all that information and put it into performance.
Exactly.
And that, I guess, through your upbringing, just hearing music, being first exposed to it by audibly hearing what you're doing, then wanting to reproduce it, it felt good, whether it was complicated or not complicated.
Right.
Kind of.
Well, I came in with a leg up because of playing with my mom and playing all the different styles. I mean, she was hip, you know, she played a lot of current pop music with her groups and, you know, all of the standards, of course, jazz standards. So I came in knowing bossa novas, swing time, a little bit of odd meter, rock, pop, funk, R&B. So I came in knowing all these styles. I just didn't know what I was playing, and so that was my sole purpose, really, of going to MI Percussion Institute, was to learn how to read and write what I was playing already.
That's part of the mantra of the Drum Channel method here we have on Drum Channel.
Right.
It takes you through step by step each one of the levels of what you would be practicing, which is reading technique, performance, or independence.
Right.
And then you can go and explore any one of those if you just want to work on your reading. Like you had to work on specific areas because you were a little behind other students there, but yet you had some areas where you were really ahead of them.
Right, and that's, again, going back to the whole peer thing. The guys that were really excellent readers that were in drum corps and had took privately, they would help me, and they would come to me and say, man, I just want to lay a good pocket down. What's a good groove? How do you play eighth note groove? How do you play a funk syncopated beat with 16ths on the hi-hat? So we'd exchange. And that was the greatest thing of being amongst your peers, where not only are you getting great instruction from the instructors, but we help each other. And I remember vividly just being able to sit down with the guys that were really great at playing rock and saying, okay, what are you doing here? And they would write it out. Okay, show me what that means. And then they would ask me the same thing. Well, how do I play, like, you know, funk halftime on the bell, you know? And we would just trade back and forth. then apply that to our lessons with our instructors and our instruction. So it was a great learning environment, a great environment for building up your chops and confidence.
Did you learn how to play other instruments before you went to MI? I know you play a little bit of B3, correct?
I play
Kirky be
keyboards.
the bass player. Something we'll announce here.
I'm a closeted bass player, but yes, I do play bass.
You're a pretty darn good bass player.
Some keyboards.
How important is that for young drummers out there to explore other instruments in there? As your career has gone on, how important has that been for you?
It is imperative only because it gives you a sense of the other side of the fence, so to speak, as a drummer. Because as a drummer, we're just locked into our little world of toms and cymbals and feet and hands and arms and legs. And so we're locked into that. But there's a whole other world outside of the drums, which is the bass player, the guitar player, the keyboard player, the singer. So all these elements together make and form a song. If you have a little bit more understanding of an instrument, a particular instrument, or all of them, it helps you become more of a musical drummer and more of a drummer that could understand how to play the song. And that's one of the things I notice with young drummers coming up. Excellent players, excellent technique, but when I hear them play a song, they haven't quite reached that apex of where the song should be. And hopefully down the road with Drum Channel, I could teach you guys that.
Yeah, we're going to be doing a course, which could be up now, depending on when you see this, about playing behind a singer, which we're going to talk about in a little bit.
Absolutely.
And you've done some things on Drum Channel now. There's a course of you playing with bass, which I think Dan Lutz was out with you to play bass.
Absolutely.
And the other very important part of not only learning other instruments, but being able to play with other instruments who would be, your bandmates, is that's who's going to introduce you and interview you and audition you and recommend you for a gig, pretty much.
Right. One of the first things when I first moved down to Los Angeles is I met another drummer who shall remain nameless. He said, while you're here at this jam session, don't talk to me, don't talk to any other drummers. Go talk to the keyboard player, the guitar player, the singer, the club owner, because those are the guys that are going to hire you for the work, not the other drummers. The other drummers are here to get a gig.
So that was words of wisdom.
Super words of wisdom. And sure enough, I was at a sit-in at a club in Studio City where it was a jam night, and I went in there and jammed. And sure enough, I was at the bar ordering my Shirley Temple, and there was a guitar player, and he said, "Wow, I really dig your playing. What are you doing this coming weekend?" I said, "Nothing." He said, "Hey, I have a wedding that I got a wedding band I'm putting together. I'd love for you to be the drummer. It pays $1,000. It's a really big wedding out in Beverly Hills. Can you do it?" And who's going to turn down $1,000 cash? I was like, "I'm in." He goes, "The only thing is you got to do is get a tux." I was like, I don't have a tux. So I rented a tux,
sure,
which at the time was really cheap. And rented a tux, showed up, brought in my gear. We played an hour maybe. The guy handed me the $1,000. The father of the bride comes to each individual band member and hands them an extra $100 bill saying, "Man, you guys sounded awesome. Thank you so much. My daughter's really happy." And I thought, wow, man, I'm driving home with $1,100. And that came to be true is meeting other musicians and other producers, songwriters, contractors, because they're the ones that are going to notice you. They're the ones that are going to say, "Don, I know you play drums, but I know you also do video production. Can you do that?" So
sure.
It's all about meeting and going outside of your circle and meeting and greeting with other people like that.
Having played many weddings back in the day, my question is, why do they call it a casual if you have to wear a tux? There's nothing casual
There's
about
zero
it.
casual about it.
You got to wear a black suit and a bow tie or a tie, but it's a casual. So fast forwarding slowly ahead, you're at MI. Give everybody a little bit of a biography of the great artists you've played with, and how much of a surprise was that to you, and how did you go through an audition process or
Yeah.
become well known as kind of the guy as you are now in town?
Well, during my year-long course at MI, what was great about it at the time, the school was located over the Wax Museum on Hollywood Boulevard, and so there was a lot of just traffic in terms of musicians and people walking the hallways and things like that. And close by were all the rehearsal studios, the big rehearsal studios, SIR, all the major recording studios, Capitol, Ocean Way, Record Plant. They're all there, all within a stone's throw. During the last month and a half, there's a guy putting together a touring band. You might know of him. His name's Morris Day. Yes.
Yeah.
And of course, he was the star, the runaway star of the movie Purple Rain with Prince. And at that time in '84, he went solo from Prince. He parted ways with Prince and came out with a solo record called The Color of Success. And he was auditioning drummers. And through the hallways of MI was this pitter patter of, hey, Morris Day is at Ocean Way, or not Ocean Way, SIR. He's at SIR and he's auditioning drummers. And I thought, wait a second, Morris Day, I know all of Prince's stuff. I know all of the music that's coming out of Minneapolis. I was a big fan of that music. So I, just on a whim, I thought, I'm going to go down to SIR and see if they would take me. I drove up in my pickup truck and I parked the car, and there's a line of drummers. A line. There was over 50 drummers.
Oh my gosh.
And so I was like, you know what? I didn't move my way all this way to not participate in something like this. Obviously, by seeing all those drummers, I was like, okay, this is a cattle call. And I was like, all right, he could either turn me away or choose to see me. So the musical director, Ricky Freeze Smith, he was taking down names, and I saw him with a board and pad and pencil. I was like, excuse me, is this where I can sign up to audition for Morris Day? And he said, yeah, write your name down. And I looked at the list of drummers that were on there, who shall remain nameless, but they were A guys. They were the creme de la creme of drummers, especially for that kind of music. And I thought, all right, I'm a small town kid. What do I have to lose? I could completely step on my left foot and sprain my ankle.
It would be a good experience no matter what.
No matter what, it's an experience.
Do every audition you can. Don't worry about it.
So I wrote my name down, and I was like the 50th drummer, I think, on the list. You know, there was a number system.
What was the audition? What did it entail? Playing a couple tracks? Or?
Yeah, it was the two hits from the breakout movie Purple Rain that The Time played. Morris Day was this lead singer of the band called The Time. And it was two songs. It was The Bird, which was a huge hit, and Jungle Love, which was another huge hit from that movie. So those were the audition songs, which I knew like the back of my hands. So I was like, okay, that part's over. That's easy. Now I just got to get over the nerves of playing. So I waited in line, waited 2 hours or whatever. And as I'm approaching the door, I realize, oh crap, I forgot my drumsticks. Which to this day, I I forget my drumsticks. So the guy in front of me, I'm like, man, after your audition, can I use your drumsticks? And his sticks were already chewed up to smithereens. He's like, well, if they don't break, you could have them. I was like, great. So he auditioned. He hands me his sticks, barely playable. And I thought, okay, they're going to break, but it's the only pair of sticks I have. So after he auditioned, he handed me his sticks. And I went into the audition. And there's Morris Day. And he had asked me, if I knew the tunes. And I said, yeah. And the musical director counted it off. So I played The Bird. I played Jungle Love. And he goes, well, do you know any other songs that I've done? And I said, yeah, I know a song that you've done called 777-9311, which is a Lynn LM1 drum machine programmed by David Garibaldi, and Prince and Morris used that for one of their other huge hits called 777-9311. Well, at home, growing up playing in my bands, we had learned that song, so I had learned it by ear. Luckily, I'd learned it note for note, and so I said, "Yeah, let's play this." So the musical director started playing the keyboards. I kicked off into the tune, and sure enough, I see Morris way in the back with his sunglasses on, peeping over the sunglasses, and his head bobbing. And we finished the tune, and he stands up and he says, "You want a job?"
Really, right there.
And I said, "Absolutely." And that was the moment that changed my life forever.
Amazing.
So thank you to Morris Day. And that was a moment where that window opens. And when you guys see that window, take that opportunity, and you never know. It may fail, it may not. And in my case, it didn't. And I'm here to tell you about it. But it worked out. And from Morris went on to Belinda Carlisle. From Belinda Carlisle went to, started playing with, doing studio work, which was a whole other story, but briefly was my hero, Jeff Porcaro. He took me under his wing and started recommending me for recording sessions here in Los Angeles. And my recording career changed overnight. From that point on, I started working with, Elton John, Mick Jagger, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Seal, Tina Turner. I mean, the list goes on. A lot of movie dates with the great Hans Zimmer. TV commercials, Taco Bell, McDonald's, Lexus, Cadillac.
You're the A-level guy back in those days.
I was a A-level guy in the 90s, and it still continues to this day. But because of the music industry ever changing, I'll never forget Joe Porcaro telling me every 10 years the industry will go through a big change, and he was right. But so I'm here to tell you about it.
No.
I survived.
No question. And all the young drummers out there who are aspiring, to follow your life's dream, they will survive also. Everybody has their challenges.
Absolutely.
Each generation has its challenges. In that list of artists that he mentioned was the answer to my original question, however. So maybe you can tell everybody right now how that came to be. You were at a session, at a date, or a rehearsal?
Yeah, I'd actually got called from. Do I dare mention the name now, or do we have to wait?
No, you can let people know now.
Okay. So the answer to that question was Tina Turner. So I got called by her manager, and he'd asked me, "There's a movie out that's being made right now, and we need to make a soundtrack for the movie. That movie is called What's Love Got to Do with It?" which stars Angela Bassett and Lawrence Fishburne, which, by the way, I was giving lessons to pre-pandemic.
Really?
He was one of my students.
Drum lessons?
Yeah, Lawrence Fishburne. Excellent drummer. He's a lefty. That was a little hard, but I would switch it up, But Lawrence is a great drummer. Don't be fooled by his acting. He could play drums, too. So I got a call from Tina's manager and said, we'd love to have you record all the songs for the soundtrack for the movie. And there's a song which is just completely connected to her called Proud Mary, which she made famous. And so we recreated that sound and that feel. And so she said, "Drummer, I need to talk to you."
Called you drummer? Drummer, right.
She could call me drummer. So we went on. She goes, "Sit down behind the drums. I need to talk to you." And she said, "You see these legs?" I said, "Yes, absolutely." And at the time, she had amazing legs. So, and of course, she was wearing a skirt, and she had gorgeous legs and heels, and just beautiful, just a beautiful woman. And she said, "Okay, we're going to do Proud Mary, and what I want you to do is watch my legs. Because as I move my legs, that's going to determine the tempo. So when you see me do this, we're going to go faster and faster and faster." And as you'll hear on the recording, it does speed up. Long story short, she cut the actual vocal right in front of the drums. So if you were to solo the vocal, you would hear drums in her vocal mic. But because she had such a powerful voice, I think the drums were way in the background. And that's the story behind that. And again, this reverts back to learning how to play behind a singer. And that was one of my first, well, after working with Morris Day, Morris was very, very strict on the drummer, me, on his cues and how he held the mic, what this meant. He had all these cues to cue the band. And if you weren't paying attention, he would dock you, or you would hear it after rehearsal or the gig. But you always have to have your eyes on the singer. And I don't care what kind of music, I don't care where you're playing, because they're leading the band. And that was one of the first things with Morris, was learning how to play behind a singer.
And you're supporting them as you did through your whole career, even in the studio situation.
Correct. And I remember the great Buddy Rich, I was watching an interview where he was talking about that. All the great singers he played behind, Ella, Sarah, he would be back there with the brushes. And even though he's Buddy Rich, we all know and love him, he would still have to keep an eye on the singer, because he didn't know if she wanted to end the song early or keep going, keep the outro going, or back then they called it the shout chorus till the end.
Still call it the shout chorus, I think.
Okay.
But
we do.
we do amongst us here. It's the drummer's terminology anyway.
Right.
Interesting question. If you're in a live situation, the singer is right in front of you. But your life now is doing a lot of tracks from the house, where you're having to kind of superimpose what they want because they're sending you to the track, and you're adding what you're doing to it.
Right.
What's the difference in terms of the way a drummer would approach that?
Well, thankfully I had all that training on the road and in the studio, and being able to assimilate, especially in the studio, being able to provide and assimilate energy, even if there isn't a crowd out there. So that's one of the things, recording drums at home now, is being able to add life to a lifeless track. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm in my bathrobe, I'm recording drums. I just did a bathrobe session the other day for a client out in Nashville.
It's not video, by the way.
Yeah, there's no video, just audio. So I'm in my, I got bedroom hair, I'm in my robe, and what they wanted was energy toward the end of the song, where they said, imagine a full choir, which I think they're going to add a full choir at the end. Imagine a full choir singing toward the end of the song. So energetically, I had to bring that energy by myself into the song. So a lot of recording drums at home now requires, first and foremost, great sounding drums, great equipment that you could rely on, microphones, mic pre's, which we're going to get into that at some point in Drum Channel with me. And that's one of the prerequisites now of recording at home. And one of the things that's required is to be able to send your stems, your audio files, in ready to go condition, where the engineer, when you send it to Nashville or New York or Chicago or Kuala Lumpur or wherever you're sending your tracks to, whoever you're working for, that they're able to pull in your audio that you recorded at home in sunny California or wherever you live, and be able to pull up the faders and go, okay, the drums are ready. So they could bring in the bass player, the singer, and they could overdub over you. But recording at home is a whole new way of things. Not new per se. I've been doing it well over 12 years now. But for those of you who are starting, it's a process. But once you understand that process, it's really easy.
And how can people get a hold of you?
You could go to my website, kirkeebmusic.com, KIRKEEB music, all one word. There's a page there where you can request remote drumming, where I could send you tracks. Drum Channel, of course.
And you can call him Curky B then from then on, because you're
Yeah, sure, Curky B.
officially in the club at that point.
Yes, you're officially in the club. Just you can call me whatever you want. Just call me, right? Did you ever hear that one?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Did you ever say that to any of your employees?
Probably, yeah. I haven't
Employers?
throughout the
Yeah.
years. You just reminded me of a show that we did. It was, I think we called it 250 Years of Drumming. It was a round table, one of my favorite Drum Channel shows, talking about experience you can get from the greatest drummers in the world. It was yourself and Terry, Alex Acuna, Brandon Buckley, and Thomas, I
Right.
think, too. By the way, how cool is it sitting here doing an interview and having Thomas Lang be your audio engineer?
I know. That's crazy.
Does things get better?
Hi, Thomas.
Does life get better than that?
I know. Yeah, and he's we call each other neighbor. I think it's known in the drum community that we're neighbors. And
Well, you're part of the Thousand Oaks Drum Club,
yes,
which is another show we have. A couple of great shows we
Yeah.
have here on
Thousand Oaks
Drum
Club.
Channel also.
Yeah, and when I found out about how many drummers lived out here, it was mind-boggling.
You're at a point in your career now where if you get called for a casual, you can dress casual because they want you there. They don't care what you have on anymore.
Right, exactly.
And if you have questions about cooking, you can hook up with him also, because I also happen to know he's a great cook.
Well, I'm from Santa Maria, so barbecue is my number one. I've learned some Italian cooking through my Sicilian wife, Daniela. And so I've learned some Italian dishes too. So yeah, cooking is welcome too.
Chef Curky B.
Yes.
Thank
Chef
you for
Boyar Kirky.
Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me, Don.
Yeah,
it's great to be back.
And a lot more we're going to be doing on Drum Channel,
Yes.
and a lot we have on Drum Channel. Just go to drumchannel.com,
Yes.
search Curt Bisquera. We don't
Yes.
have Curky B. You have to put his whole name in, Curt Bisquera.
Yeah, we'll do that.
And see if he's wearing a tuxedo in any of the stuff that he's doing. You never know.
Yeah.
Thank you so much,
So
Curt.
great to be back.
Yeah, right.
Yes. Thank you.
And we'll see you next time.
See you next time.